Okay. Happy holidays, folks. Welcome again to the Real Tom Jones Show, where we got some interesting guests with us this evening. I'd like to introduce you to Mr. W.C. Wainwright and Brother Raul Kent.
Yes.
Local people that's been a lot of ways around, and they've done a lot of things for the arts. And that's essentially what we're talking about. And if you guys can give us an individual overview of what aspects you're working in the development of the arts in this area, I'm pretty happy to you can tell us a little about it.
All right, go
Would you like me to jump in? Roll and I have decided to collaborate on a joint venture to bring jazz and the spoken word, along with a little hip hop, maybe a little, popular, music, to a new venue that we've been working on Pier 29.
Pier 26, actually.
Pier 26, my correction. Yeah. Thanks for correcting me.
Yeah.
Actually, he had established it before I came, but in light of the fact that, I had always desired to get back into the promotional aspect of putting on popular shows to attract, underground youth and people who look, actually, hunger for this type of live entertainment. But we want to do it on a grander scale in the end. We'd like to be able to start really at the basic stuff. So we're using a new venue, and it's going to be known all over the Bay Area, and we want to give people an opportunity to come and check it out.
Absolutely. Tell me a little bit about your background also.
Well, in the beginning, I was mainly focused on hip-hop, troubled youth, and gangs are such a problem in our society that, we don't have any leaders, we don't have any mentors. And it was my hope to mentor some of the young rappers that wanted to get into the industry, bring them into the studio and help them get some exposure, by putting on shows in different venues locally around town. But unfortunately, a couple of my acts ran into a little trouble. One of them got life imprisonment.
Oh, man.
And the other one got shot.
Oh, man.
So, it was just such a discouragement to me that, I decided to be more of a spectator than anything else. So.
But you work with some interesting groups like
oh yeah, I work with Gangstar, and I had the pleasure to be in the company of Forte and Spice One and JT the Bigger Figure, and all these people attended one of my biggest events. That was in 1993. So it's been a long time for me. But I'm glad to be back in.
Well, you brought up an interesting part. I'm working out of the field more with a group called Brothers for Change, a young group. They want to stop the gang killings and all that marauding and stuff they do. And they have some wonderful people, Reverend Harris over there and a guy named Majik. And we do a lot of stuff out of the West Bay Center. And we're doing a lot of stuff in the mini park right there on Fillmore, right next door. And we've got some community things, and we're doing community resources. If you can get you involved with the interests we're doing in the Fillmore.
Yes. Sounds like it.
And I'm looking for some people to help us coordinate community programs. Such as we've got a program at Hamilton Recreation Center. We got a program working out of the Baha'i, I don't know if you ever heard of the Baha'i religious faith.
Of course.
Of course, yes.
And we've got some stuff working out of there. We got stuff working out of Bodeca Park. And we can get our things, and we have unified this through the effort around here.
Yes, unified.
And we got, it's a unified effort of working, coordinating all our programs, where we can give full benefit to our youth aspect. Like I mentioned on the other previous program, we have a project called Sane Alternative to a Nothing Existent. In a way, get away from the gang, hoodlum stuff, crack.
An alternative.
An alternative.
Exactly.
Where we want to help develop your talent and skill. And you look like a person, And
I'm
I heard
40.
you was from St. Louis and born in St. Louis.
Yeah, born.
Where you been since then, brother?
Actually, I spent most of my time on the coast. I never left the coast. I mean,
What part? L.A. or here?
L.A. in here.
You spent the time in L.A.
When I was a youth, I did.
Yeah.
I lived in South Central.
How would you compare the rowdyism with youth in L.A. as to the rowdyism of youth here in San Francisco?
You know, actually, I think there's no difference whatsoever. The only difference I see is a social aspect that has been added, which is the guns and the crack, you know, which I'm happy to say I see less of in my particular neighborhood, but you know, I can't speak of, you know, Hunters Point, you know, over there by Candlestick Park, different places like that. I don't know.
Would you say it's a syndrome in America for African American youth
Actually,
to
I
get
think
involved
it's
in gangs and gotta protect
themselves? It is a created
themselves?
syndrome because of lack of opportunity.
Well, where does that created syndrome? How does it come about?
It generates through the funding of prisons instead of programs to improve
the
opportunity for our youth. I remember when I was younger, I was blessed with the chance to work with a program that had me working in a park, and I was passing out baseball equipment. And it seems like such a mundane thing, right? But it's a job. And it'll give you, you know, an idea of an alternative to being on the corner selling crack. You know, now they have Job Corps, but, you know, unless you, you know, have very, you know, little opportunity, you know, getting in Job Corps is like just what it says, a job. And you're not really being, you know, developed into the point where you can use your mental capacity in any other field other than agriculture, you know, or chopping down trees. Who wants to work chopping down trees? We need more scientists. We need more doctors. We need more engineers. You know, we need more people in the studio to create, you know. And I think our direction should be there instead of prisons, you know, and locking people up. You know, you don't see them locking up the people who run the ships. You see the people locking up the people who have the rocks and, you know, maybe get caught with one gun. But you don't see them locking up the guy with the crates that's bringing over M16s and everything else. You don't see them locking those guys up.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you a very powerful question. What part do you think the media plays in some of what they call the black criminal environment, the gangs and stuff? What part do you really believe the media plays in helping to, how we say, aggravate or expand this
Promote.
rowdyism? This
I'll let Roy.
Yeah, I'd love to jump in on that. What I've observed is a media that is determined to brand African American youth into and under a certain context, usually criminal. Okay, and that comes through the news. It comes through advertising. It comes through in closing down venues that support the youth by snatching away their grants, what have you. And it's a concept of either gangster or hoodlum, you know, all of those little terms that they put on the youth before they even have a chance. And then there's obviously the lack of opportunity WC was speaking about. But the media, yeah, plays a big role because they don't put out enough positive imagery of the youth.